Hello YouTube. Alright, today we're going to do a build swap video. Thanks to that Seasonic power supply you saw in a previous video. I got around to putting that in this case that I told you guys about. However, I think I'm going to have to swap out the DVD drive to something that's actually black, unfortunately. I'll get a beige one later to match the case. But, yes, we're going to switch the build around into this particular case. Now, the build that was in here before is a board that's probably going to be sent to a friend. It is a board out of an HP machine. It is a socket 478 motherboard that actually has an AGP slot, which is nice. This is what was in there before, and it kind of fits the era of the case, because if you look at the stamping in the case, you can see that this case was made in 2002. So this case was sitting new old stock for a long time before I bought it, which was about 2 or 3 years ago. So that's pretty cool. This is the power supply that was in that machine before. It's a Diablotech unit. Now these are alright, but if you look inside here, you can really tell there's not much going on. You look in the Seasonic, the circuitry looks excellent. It looks like it can definitely handle the power that I'm about to ask out of it. And this is the build that we're going to swap into. It's my LAN party machine. Has this Asus DVD drive in it. It's in this Cooler Master case, which has served me well over the years, but it's pretty flimsy. What else can I say? I can just go over what's in here. This is an Asus socket 1156 motherboard with a Pentium dual core in it. 8 gigs of RAM, DDR3. This board happens to have IDE and floppy still, so that's kind of cool if you ask me. I also have a GT640 in here for the graphics card, which barely uses any power, so that'll be fine with that little 350 watt. Same thing with this Western Digital hard drive. I have the Caviar Blue in there, which is your just typical normal hard drive. Nothing special about it. It just kind of does its thing. So, long story short, I'm going to swap all this stuff into that case. Booyah. Let's just contrast here. The old and the new. Can you tell that the colors are a lot more well thought out? A nice blue color scheme instead of just green and white and yeah. Looks like a normal motherboard. Nothing special about it. This thing looks like it has, some pizzazz going on. And we're going to give this old beige case some pizzazz on the inside. Yay. Alright, and everything is installed. That black drive looks absolutely terrible in this case, so I'll have to get a beige one eventually to match the case better. But everything is in here. Got the board in here, got the GT640 in here. Got the hard drive back here in this cage. And I actually have the floppy drive plugged in, since this board actually still supports floppy, which I think is pretty cool. Seasonic power supply up there. I have a bunch of Molex connectors that aren't even in use. Let me shove those back there. That's what I call cable management. Just hide them. But there are a few things I have to complain about this case when using a modern motherboard in it. First is that the speaker and the power LED connector don't fit. The speaker doesn't because there's no speaker connector on the motherboard, but the power LED one uses the old 3-pin style thing, even though it only uses 2 connectors. So I could probably just redo the connector. I could pull the pin out of one end and put it in the other. I don't know how to do that, which is why I haven't done it. But for now, I'm just going to leave it that way. Or I could get a converter, which is probably the best way to do it, which is probably the least destructive way to do it that I can think of. But it's just the power LED. It really doesn't matter all that much. So, there you have it. I have one of my Antec double ball bearing fans, 3-speed fan, installed in there. I have the speed on medium, so that it doesn't get loud, but still moves air, considering all the stuff over here needs ventilation. It just pushes air from over here over to the PCI cards, of which there's only one. There's also no ventilation in the back. What I could do is get a small fan and just mount it in these holes here, but I don't think I'm going to have to. I purposely put a computer in here that does not get hot. This Pentium dual core does not get hot. This GT640 does not get hot. Everything in here runs very cool, so it shouldn't pose a problem anyway. So there you have it. Even the hard drive doesn't run all that hot either. So there you have it. The ventilation is pretty poor in this case. It's a just this fan here pushing in, and the power supply fan pulling out. Which the fan used to be down here on the other power supply, so it had better ventilation. But this is a better power supply, so hopefully the airflow isn't that bad. One thing to note about cooling for the graphics cards: there's also these holes in the side of the case, so there is, airflow for that fan there as well. And that is swapping into this case. I think this would make a really good LAN party case, just because I can plop a monitor on top of that and play games. I like the desktop form factor a lot, and this is probably one of the later cases that actually has it. So, yeah. One other thing I did to this case is, besides that power supply and the new board, is I put thumb screws on the back here so that I don't need a screwdriver every time I want to get in here, since it's a complete pain in the ass to open the back of this thing up without doing that. So now I can just take all these screws out and take the back off, which is really, really handy. I stole these thumb screws from the that Cooler Master case over there. Now that case is probably going to be junked because they're plastic pieces that are breaking, and the case is pretty flimsy by itself. I'm just going to take the fans out, take the power supply out, and just junk the rest, because there are much better cases than this on the market for less money than I paid for this one. So yeah, there you have it. This case is going to go, and that's why I put all that stuff into this particular case here. The only thing that needs to really change is I just need to get a beige SATA DVD burner for it. I know that Sony sells one, or at least used to sell one, so I'm going to try to track one of those down and stick it in here. And you'll know what it'll look like. It'll look a lot like this, only it'll be more like a Sony. So. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to boot up this computer with this new power supply just to see whether it works or not. The power supply, that is. So, let's give it a shot here. Let's try this again. Oh yeah, I hear activity. Oh, that little fan in the power supply is very quiet. I'm very surprised. Yep, it all works. Nice. Forget what I have on here. Yeah, it's Windows 7. That's on my LAN party machine. Alright, so that little fan in that power supply, I expect it to be pretty loud, but it's very quiet. Very, very quiet. And the computer is quite quiet by itself. So this should be nice for LAN party machines. Alright, so this thing should be good to go for a LAN party machine. And I know you guys are going to say, you should get a newer case, because that one's old and ugly and beige. But I don't see the point in spending the money. I mean, really. If any case is going to get beat up, it should be an old trucker like this thing anyway. And at LAN parties, I expect my computer to get pretty much beat to crap. So there you have it. Computer starts up, works fine. We're good to go. Excellent. So, his board swap was a success. This will be my new LAN party machine, which looks old as hell and still has a floppy drive, which I kind of like, actually. I like floppies. But there you have it, guys. That was a board swap from that one case that actually has been thrown out by now, because it's been about a day or two, into this rugged old case from 2002. Alrighty. Have a good one, everybody. Ciao.